And our goals are also going to be framed in terms of kind of, well, I ought to, or the ideal. So this is called a prevention orientation or a promotion orientation. So the behaviors are going to be the same in a goal. Let's use a new goal of saving money. Prevention orientation is going to emphasize safety, responsibility, and security. Well, I should do this. I should save my money in case of a rainy day, right? In case my car transmission blows out on me, I have a little stock of cash to help in the back, right? This is to help avoid problems. So it's very much, I ought to do this. That's how they frame the problem. So they may buy things on sale because it helps with saving money. And that behavior is going to be reinforced because they're saying, hey, I'm saving money in case I need it for a rainy day. That's a prevention orientation. Whereas a promotion orientation emphasizes hopes, accomplishments, and advancement needs. These are ideals, and this brings pleasure. Right? Bringing pleasure and engaging that behavior. So we may have the same behavior of saving money, right? But this person with a promotion orientation might say, hey, I'm going to buy that clearance thing to save money because I really want to go to Disney World once it opens back up after the coronavirus has faded. Or hopefully, right? So maybe this person says, I want to save money to go to Disney World. It's promotion orientation. This is an ideal. They want to go on vacation, looking at those hopes and accomplishments and executing the same goal and behavior. So make sure you know the difference between these two. So now the cybernetic process of self-regulation. This is just the idea that we weigh the discrepancy between the goal we want and our goal progress. So our self-regulation is going to depend heavily on our actual versus expected progress. So how much are we progressing toward our goal, and how much would we like to progress toward our goal? So we're looking at the discrepancy or the difference between our current state and the desired state, or closing the gap, if you will. So largely when we find that that gap is higher than we expected, let's say your expected progress is quite far, but your actual progress, no, that's for the second one. Let's say your expected progress is quite far, and your actual progress is quite far. Maybe you're like so close to achieving that goal. Let's say you're working on an assignment or a presentation for class, right? You're like, oh, I'm almost done with this paper. I just need to put in the conclusion and I'm almost done. Well, this can lead to positive feelings, which can then lead to what's called coasting. So we may divert our efforts to other goals that may not be as close to achieved. So maybe we're like, okay, well, I'm almost done with this paper. I really got to start this presentation for psych, so let me go do that. In the opposite scenario, let's say your actual progress is lower than that discrepancy, that gap. Your actual progress is much lower than you expected at this point. You waited till the night it was due, and you got to get it done in about 5 hours. It's due at midnight. It's already 7 o'clock. You got to get going. This is going to spark some negative feelings inside of you, and they're going to motivate you to exert greater effort on focusing on that one goal because you're trying to close the gap in the discrepancy between your desired state and your current state. I hope that makes sense. If not, make sure you email me because I would love to talk about it with you. Now, with highlighting one goal or balancing between goals, because like I said, we have a lot of goals happening at one time. We look at commitment versus progress interpretation. So we talked about commitment a little bit in addressing how much, I don't want to explain this using the word commit, but how much of our efforts we use to stick to that goal. Whereas progress kind of looks at a stagnant point in time. Think of commitment as kind of like the state of being or your feelings towards the goal, whereas progress is actually kind of like a tangible thing that we measure in goal completion. So maybe you have a high commitment to losing weight and not eating sugary foods, right? So you have a lot of motivation going into that commitment. Whereas progress could be something like the amount of weight you're losing. Maybe you had excess weight because you're consuming too much sugary food. That's the idea of this commitment versus progress interpretation. So actions related to commitment are going to highlight the goal pursuit and are going to be put forth more effort. We're going to put forth more effort in sticking to that commitment. Whereas actions related to progress balance goals and other goals and less effort into the focal goal. So think of commitment as kind of a generalized span. I'm trying to give a good example. Aha! Think of actions related to commitment as kind of a whole or reframing different progress. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but reframing is going to be the key here. You want to view the situation as a part of a whole. So if your goal is to eat less sugary foods, something that's sticking to commitment or behavior that sticks to the goal pursuit might be pushing away a tray of cookies, right? Or not engaging in a bowl of ice cream at night because you ate a salad at lunch. Whereas progress interpretation might balance goals with the other goals and saying, well, I've done a really good job of sticking to my goal of not eating sugary foods, so maybe if I just reward myself with one little snack a day, it'll be fine. So we're trying to reward ourselves in a sense. So think of it that way. Commitment continues, right? Whereas progress kind of says, well, stop, you've done a good job. Maybe we could backtrack a little bit because you've done so well. We're trying to reward ourselves. And so it kind of decreases the effort into that focal goal in an attempt to balance it with other goals. Maybe you have a goal to have sugary food on some unconscious level, right? So you might try to balance this goal of progress. Well, I haven't eaten a sugary food every day, so now I can reward myself. That's an idea of the action related to progress and rewarding ourselves for that progress. So, for example, saving money. Let's use another one. If we reinforce the commitment to saving money, we may say, well, look, I've already saved this much money. I don't really need to go to the clearance section today. I don't even have to go to the store. I just wanted to go to walk around and look. We might decide not to go to the store to buy anything. That's reinforcing our commitment to the goal of saving money. Whereas evidence of progress in saving money, we may say, well, I haven't spent a lot of money in a long time, so maybe I can afford to buy myself a $200 pair of earphones because, I've saved so much other money. I deserve to treat myself and reward myself. That's the evidence of progress. We're using that progress as kind of like a way to rationalize the deficit in our commitment and self-control. Make sure you read this section, by the way, because I'm just trying to give you the general kind of information with examples to help. I know this part is a little confusing, especially because words are escaping me right now. Just to be candid with you all, I'm having speech issues, but just make sure you read this part of the text. It'll help illuminate it. And then you can watch this video again and it might help. Now, when conflicting goals and self-control, okay, because sometimes we may have different goals, like we want to eliminate those sugary treats, but we also want to eat those sugary treats. They're delicious. I know I shouldn't keep using that one, but it's so relevant to me because I'm trying to eat healthier. But man, I love some ice cream, right? So, we come across other goals, and we have to exercise a sense of self-control. So whereas self-regulation kind of affects how we perceive the world and how we reframe our behaviors and cognitive thoughts, self-control is just controlling our impulses. It's controlling emotions, desires, and actions in order to resist that temptation. We're going to protect that valued goal. So self-control is a process of self-regulation. Maybe that'll help you know the difference. But self-control is very important. It's calling it out for what it is. Maybe you're having a goal of trying to use your phone less. So self-control is maybe flipping that phone over so you don't see the blinking light, right? We're controlling that impulse to touch our phone. We're controlling emotion or desire. Whereas self-regulation is more viewing it, I think of it as viewing it in more romantic terms. And what I mean by that is like elaborating on it more. Like, well, if I don't engage on my phone more, I'll be able to spend more time with my family and give them more of my attention. And I can go on my phone at bedtime to help me relax and talk to my friends, right? That is a process of self-regulation. We're trying to look at those long-term interests versus our immediate gratification. So with that immediate gratification, that's wanting something now. This may be an example of someone who, maybe they're in school because they want to graduate with a degree, but they can't quite plan on that long-term goal. So they decide to take up more hours at their current job because they want that immediate gratification of having the money now, right? This idea and capacity that we have different innate levels of self-control is an idea that was tested by Mitchell and Baker in 1975 at Stanford. And they said that self-control is an innate ability, and much like any other muscle, we can flex it and practice it. And so this video, you will find a sample. There have been so many replications of this study. But basically, I'm not going to play it in this video. Basically, it's looking at how children resist the temptation to eat a marshmallow. I know that sounds weird, but they asked in the original study 3 to 5-year-olds, they said, if they put a marshmallow on a plate, and Mitchell and Baker said, if you do not eat this marshmallow in 10 minutes when I come back, I will give you 2 marshmallows. And so what you find is different videos. Some kids succumbed and ate the marshmallow before the researcher came back. Others waited. They would smell it, play with it, lick it, right? Do little things because they were trying to practice that self-control so that they could have that long-term interest of doubling, right, the amount of sweets they have. And it was found actually that in the future, that this study, the children who were able to delay that gratification were more likely to do well in academics and other life ventures when compared to the children who needed that immediate gratification. So there may be something to that as maybe a personality trait or temperament or just that innate ability to control ourselves and practice that muscle. So, with that, self-control is also a limited resource. We can only control ourselves so